The most shocking moment happened right inside the banking hall of First Continental Trust in Lagos, Nigeria. On a hot Tuesday afternoon, the air conditioning hummed softly. Then a scream shattered the quiet. The banker, Chike, jerked back from her computer, her eyes wide with pure disbelief. She stared at the woman standing before her. The woman's name was Adesuwa. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her feet were cracked inside old slippers. She looked like she had not eaten for days. In her trembling hand, she held a simple, faded debit card. Chike's voice cracked as she whispered, "Madam, please, say that account number again." Adesuwa repeated the number softly. Chike typed, looked at the screen, and her hand flew to her mouth. She turned to her colleagues, her face pale. "It cannot be," she breathed. One colleague leaned in, gasped, and muttered, "Oh. This is not happening." The other simply stared, speechless. Everyone in the bank had frozen, watching this strange scene. Chike looked back at Adesuwa, her voice shaking with a terrifying question. "Madam, who are you truly? Because this account, it holds over $10 million. The entire hall fell into a dead silence. Adesuwa felt the world spin. $10 million. How could her poor, late father have left her such a thing? Before she could faint, the bank manager, Mr. Adesuwa, rushed over. He took one look at the screen, then at Adesuwa in her rags. His professional calm broke for just a second, revealing utter shock. He said the words that would change everything. "Madam, come with me to my office. Now." As Adesuwa followed him, the whispers followed her like a trail of fire. What did that poor woman do? Is she a thief? A princess in disguise? But one burning question hung in the air, a question Adesuwa herself could not answer. How did her life of suffering lead to a hidden fortune, and what dangerous secrets was she about to unlock? Hi guys, welcome to Echoes of the Baobab Tree. Kindly give us a like, subscribe to our channel and share with your loved ones. This encourages us to create more interesting stories like this. Let us go back, 1 week earlier, to the beginning of our story. The place was a small, noisy compound in the Surulere area of Lagos. The date was March 12th. The sky was grey, promising rain. Adesuwa sat on the floor of a tiny room, her heart heavy as a stone. Her husband, Chike, stood over her, his face twisted in anger. "You are a curse, Adesuwa," he shouted, his voice echoing off the bare walls. "Since I married you, my business has failed. My life is stuck. You are bad luck." Adesuwa's tears fell silently. She had heard these words for 2 years. She had cooked, cleaned, and sold little snacks by the road to help, but nothing was ever good enough. That night, Chike had reached his limit. "Pack your things and get out," he roared. "I do not want to see your face again." Her pleas fell on deaf ears. With a rough shove, Chike pushed her and her small, warm bag out of their single room. The metal gate clanged shut behind her. Adesuwa stood in the dark alley, the smell of garbage in the air. She had no family in Lagos. No friends who could take her in. She was completely alone. For 3 days, Adesuwa wandered the streets of Lagos. She slept at a chaotic motor park, hugging her bag tightly. Hunger was a sharp pain in her stomach. Shame was a constant cloak on her shoulders. People looked at her torn dress and dirty feet and turned away. On the morning of the 4th day, as she sat by the roadside, despair threatened to swallow her whole. Then, her fingers brushed against something at the bottom of her bag. It was a small nylon package, tied with a string. Her breath caught. It was the gift from her father, given to her on his deathbed 5 years ago in their village in Enugu State. "Keep this safe, my daughter," he had whispered. "It is for you, for when the world becomes too hard." She had never opened it, thinking it was just his old prayer card or a faded photograph. With trembling hands, she untied the string. Inside was not a photo. It was a blue debit card, slightly faded, with the name of a bank she did not recognize. A tiny slip of paper had a phone number written in her father's careful handwriting. A tiny spark of hope flickered in Adesuwa's chest. Maybe, just maybe, there was a little money in the account. Enough for a bus ticket back to her village. Enough to escape Lagos and Chike's cruelty. She found a kind woman selling phone credit who let her use an old phone. With a heart pounding like a drum, Adesuwa dialed the number on the paper. A polite customer service agent answered. Adesuwa, her voice shaking, read the numbers on the card. The agent asked for her name and her father's name. Adesuwa Nwachukwu. My father was Nnamdi Nwachukwu, she said. There was a pause on the line. Then the agent's voice became very calm and very serious. Madam, please visit any branch of First Continental Trust Bank. They will assist you directly. The call ended. Adesuwa was confused. Why couldn't the agent just tell her the balance over the phone? A cold fear touched her spine. Was the account closed? Was she in trouble? The next day, Tuesday, Adesuwa gathered all her courage. She washed her face at a public tap and tried to smooth her tongue down. She walked for miles until she found a tall, glass building with the bank's logo. It looked expensive and intimidating. For a full hour, she stood outside, watching well-dressed people walk in and out. Her feet ached. Her stomach growled. Finally, she took a deep breath and stepped through the rotating doors. The cold air from the air conditioner made her shiver. The floor was so shiny she could see her own tired reflection. People in beautiful clothes sat on comfortable chairs. She felt like a piece of dirt that had blown in from the street. Adesuwa walked slowly to the first empty counter. The banker, a young woman named Uche with neat braids and a smart blazer, looked up. For a second, surprise flashed in Uche's eyes at Adesuwa's appearance, but she quickly smiled a professional smile. How can I help you, madam? She asked. Adesuwa's mouth was dry. She silently pushed the faded blue debit card across the smooth counter. Uche took it, glanced at it, and her smile faded into a look of confusion. This was an old type of card. She typed the number into her computer. She frowned. She typed again. Then her eyes grew wide. She looked from the screen to Adesuwa, then back to the screen. And that is when she screamed. Back in the manager's office, the world was still spinning for Adesuwa. Mr. Adebayo, the manager, offered her a comfortable chair and a glass of cold water. His eyes were kind but filled with a strange urgency. Madam Adesuwa, he began, the account is real. The money is real. It is over $10 million. Adesuwa shook her head, tears finally spilling over. No, sir. There is a mistake. My father was a poor teacher. He rode a bicycle. We lived in a mud house. This is not possible. Mr. Adebayo leaned forward. Sometimes, madam, what we see on the outside is not the whole truth. This account was opened 20 years ago. It received regular, large deposits from foreign companies. Adesuwa felt a chill. Foreign companies. What was her father involved in? Just then, a lawyer from the bank's legal team, Mrs. Chike, entered the office. She carried a thick file. Madam Adesuwa, she said gently, your father, Nnamdi Nwachukwu, was not just a teacher. Our records show he was a silent partner in several agricultural export businesses. He helped foreign companies buy high-quality cocoa and sesame seeds from local farmers. He was very, very successful, but he chose to live simply. Adesuwa listened, her mind reeling. Her gentle, humble father, a wealthy businessman. It was like hearing a fairy tale. Why, she whispered. Why did he hide it? Why let me suffer? Mrs. Chike opened the file. He left a letter attached to the account instructions. She read aloud, "This is for my only child, Adesuwa. Let her learn humility and strength through life's trials. The money is hers only when she needs it for survival, not for greed. Protect her heart." Adesuwa broke down crying. Her father's love, silent and immense, surrounded her from beyond the grave. Mr. Adesuwa spoke carefully. "Adesuwa, this money changes everything. But it also brings danger. We must protect you." He arranged for a secure car to take her to a safe hotel. He gave her a new phone. "Tell no one," he warned. "Not even your oldest friend." As Adesuwa sat in the back of the quiet car, watching the bustling streets of Lagos pass by, she felt like she was in a dream. She was no longer hungry. She was no longer on the street. She had a room waiting for her. But a heavy fear settled in her stomach. Secrets, especially ones this big, have a way of bursting out. At the quiet, secure hotel, Adesuwa took a long bath and put on clean, new clothes provided by the bank. She looked at herself in the mirror. The same eyes, but a different woman was looking back. That night, as she tried to sleep in the soft bed, her new phone rang. The screen flashed, unknown number. Her heart jumped into her throat. She answered, her voice small. "Hello." There was a pause filled with static. Then a voice, familiar and cold, slithered through the speaker. It was Chike, her husband. "Adesuwa," he said, his tone a mix of suspicion and fake sweetness. "A little bird told me a strange story. They say you caused a big scene at the big bank on the island. They say you have come into some unexpected fortune." Adesuwa's blood ran cold. How did he know so fast? Who had seen her? Chike's voice hardened. "We need to talk, wife. That money, if it is real, it belongs to us. You hear me? I am your husband. Everything you have is mine." Before she could reply, he delivered a terrifying threat. "If you think you can hide from me with my money, you are mistaken. I will find you. And when I do, you will regret this." The line went dead. Adesuwa sat in the dark, clutching the phone, her whole body trembling. The peace she had just found was already shattered. The hunt had begun. The phone slipped from Adesuwa's hand and hit the soft hotel carpet with a dull thud. Chike's threat echoed in the silent room, "I will find you. You will regret this." Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. The safe, clean room now felt like a cage. He knew. How? The bank was supposed to be discreet. Panic, cold and sharp, climbed up her throat. She had just escaped the streets, and already the shadow of her old life was reaching for her, its fingers tipped with greed and anger. Little did she know, Chike's network of friends was wider than she ever imagined, and one of them had been in the bank hall, watching everything. Adesuwa did not sleep. At dawn, she called Mr. Adesuwa, her voice trembling. He listened gravely. "This is what I feared," he said. "Money attracts flies, Madam Adesuwa. But we will not let him touch you." Within hours, two things happened. First, Mr. Adesuwa moved Adesuwa to a different, more secure apartment in a quiet part of Ikoyi, with a kind elderly woman, Mama Nkechi, as a living companion. Second, Mrs. Chike, the lawyer, arrived with papers. "We must act fast to legally secure everything in your name alone," she explained. "We also need to build a wall between you and Chike. He has no legal right to inheritance given solely to you, but a cunning man can cause trouble." As she signed documents, Adesuwa felt a new strength. This was her father's gift. She would not let Chike steal it. A week later, guided by the bank, Adesuwa took her first bold step. Using a small fraction of the interest, she registered a business, Namdi's Legacy Agro-Exports. She chose the name to honor her father. The plan was to continue what he did, connecting honest local farmers in Enugu and Ondo states with fair international buyers. She hired a no-nonsense manager, Ibrahim, who knew the industry. She was learning, her mind finally free from hunger and fear, able to think and grow. One afternoon, sitting with Ibrahim and reviewing sesame seed quality reports, she felt a joy she had never known. She was building something. This was her life now. But peace was fragile. In her old neighborhood in Suraleh, Chike was boiling with rage. His small electronics repair shop was failing. Debt collectors called daily. The rumor of Adesuwa's fortune was a poison in his heart. He gathered his friends, buying them cheap beer. "She is my wife," he shouted, slamming his palm on the wobbly table. "That money is mine by right. She is hiding it from me with those rich people in the bank." His friends, eager for a share of the drama, fed his anger. One, a taxi driver named Tond, offered to help find her. "My cousin works near the big banks in Ikoyi," Tond said with a sly smile. "We will ask around. A woman with sudden money cannot hide for long." Back in her new life, Adesuwa faced a different challenge. Mama Nkechi, her companion, took her to a modern church in Victoria Island. Among the friendly crowd, Adesuwa met a man named Jude. He was a calm, respected civil engineer. He spoke to her not with pity or curiosity, but with simple kindness. He asked about her business plans, listened, and offered sensible advice. For the first time, a man looked at her and saw Adesuwa, not a poor woman or a sudden millionaire. She felt her heart, locked away for so long, give a gentle, fearful stir. The hunt intensified. Tom's cousin, a security guard at a building near First Continental Trust, had seen Adesuwa get into a specific private car service used by the bank's VIPs. Through gossip and bribes, Tom tracked the car's usual destinations. 2 weeks later, as Adesuwa and Jude shared a quiet lunch at a small restaurant, she glanced out the window and froze. Across the street, leaning against a motorcycle, was Chike's friend Tond. He was staring directly at her, a slow, recognizing smile spreading on his face. Their eyes met for one terrible second before he quickly looked away and sped off. The fried plantain in Adesuwa's mouth turned to ash. Panic returned, but this time, Adesuwa did not crumble. She called an emergency meeting with Mr. Adebayo and Mrs. Chike. "He has found me," she stated, her voice surprisingly firm. Mrs. Chike nodded. "Then we stop running. We face him with the law." They crafted a plan. First, they secured a restraining order against Chike, citing his threats. Second, Mrs. Chike sent a formal letter to Chike, stating that any contact would be considered harassment and lead to arrest. Adesuwa also decided to use her new power for protection. She hired a legitimate, licensed security detail, 2 professional men who would watch her apartment discreetly. Chike received the lawyer's letter. It enraged him further. The formal language felt like a slap. "She is using my money to pay lawyers against me," he screamed, tearing the paper. His pride, already wounded by poverty, was now shattered. He decided on a reckless, dangerous plan. He would not ask. He would take. He knew where Adesuwa's village was, where her elderly mother still lived in a small house. If he could not get to Adesuwa directly, he would pressure her through family. He borrowed a rickety car and began the long, rough journey to Enugu State, his heart filled with a dark, vengeful fire. In Lagos, Adesuwa's life was blossoming despite the fear. Nnamdi's legacy secured its first major export contract. Jude continued to be a gentle, steady presence. One evening, as they walked along the Lagos Bar beach, the ocean wind in their hair, he spoke honestly. "Adesuwa, I see the fear in your eyes sometimes. You don't have to tell me why. Just know you are not alone anymore." She looked at him, at the sincere concern in his eyes, and for a moment, she believed true peace was possible. She allowed herself to imagine a future of choice, not fear. But in the quiet village of Amiri in Enugu, the dark storm arrived. It was a humid afternoon when Chike's dusty car screeched to a halt in front of Mama Nwachukwu's simple compound. Adesuwa's mother, a frail woman with wise eyes, was sweeping the yard. Chike stormed in, his face sweaty and furious. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Where is your daughter hiding my money?" Mama Nwachukwu stood her ground. "Chike, you threw her away like rubbish. You have no rights here. Leave." Enraged, Chike pushed past her, barging into the small house, overturning chairs, looking for anything of value, for bank papers, for clues. He was a tornado of greed. Outside, neighbors gathered, whispering. Mama Nwachukwu, her heart pounding, slipped an old phone from her wrapper and did what her daughter had taught her to do in emergency. She pressed a single button, speed dialing Adesuwa in Lagos. As the phone rang in Adesuwa's apartment, over 500 kilometers away, Chike emerged from the house, empty-handed. He turned his rage on the defenseless old woman, grabbing her arm tightly. "Call her," he yelled. "Tell her to bring my money or I will burn this house down." Mama Nwachukwu's cry of pain traveled clearly through the phone line just as Adesuwa answered. "Mama." Adesuwa's voice echoed in the village compound. Chike heard it. He snatched the phone from the old woman's hand. A cruel smile twisted his lips. He spoke directly to his wife, his voice a venomous whisper that carried across the distance. "Your hiding is over, Adesuwa. I am home. With your mother. Bring what is mine to this village by tomorrow sunset, or you will come home to a tragedy." He ended the call. Adesuwa stood frozen in her Lagos apartment, the phone dead in her hand, the ocean of her new life draining away. The final, terrible confrontation would not be in the city. It would be on the sacred soil of her father's land. And she would have to face the monster of her past, not with lawyers or security, but with the raw courage her father always knew she had. Thank you for watching.